When you come from a life like I did, and you come into a relationship, you come in broken, but you don't know it. And that doesn't change anything. There is not a person, and it's not fair to put the responsibility on a person to fix you or to be everything that you're lacking.
Welcome. You're listening to the radio podcast of Voices of a Woman from Creative Encouragement Ministries. This program focuses on giving women a voice to share their stories and how the Lord brought them through challenging situations to live above their circumstances. I hope that this conversation will encourage you and offer you hope in your own journey. Hi, I'm Leanna Wilson, your host, and you're listening to Voices of a Woman. My guest today opened her heart and invited Jesus into her life in 2008. This decision completely changed her whole world as she began her new and amazing journey into ministry. One of the first things the Lord taught her was how to be His servant. Through years of obedience and servanthood, she has learned to trust God's leading and guidance. She has become a prayer warrior, encourager, teacher, and soul winner for Jesus. She has a bachelor's degree in theology as well as an ordination from Joan Hunter Ministries. She is also a teacher of the Word, has a ministry called Embrace New Life. She's a chaplain for hospice patients, a published author, a wife, and a mother. My guest today is Melissa Valenzuela. Welcome.
Thank you, Leanna. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks so much for being my guest today. I'm so excited. The more I get to know you, and I just hear bits and pieces of your story, I am just amazed at God's love and grace for you as well as humanity. Just beautiful. I think we've known each other, was it 2 years or so? Is that right?
Yes, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, around that time. God
has really shown Himself to you as a father. Really as a mother as well. I mean, He has just done so much in your life. Let's kind of go back. I really want to hear your story, and I want our listeners to hear your story. So where were you raised, and what was kind of going on at that time, when you were younger?
So I was raised in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
Till I was about 18 years old.
Okay.
What was going on at that time was I was in a pretty bad situation with my family.
Okay.
I have experienced abuse from the time that I was 3 till I got out of it about 12, but then there was other abuse that I experienced from that time up until I was 18 years old.
Okay. So were you foster care? I mean, you went into foster care?
Yes.
Okay.
So I went into foster care when I was 12. And was there till I was 18. I lived in 5 different places. There was 3 that are short-term. They're called short-term because it's every 30 days.
Oh, wow.
And the 2 long ones was children's homes.
Okay. Did you ever live with a family, or you were living more in like foster homes?
So at first, when I left the situation, was because I was abused physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually, you name it, every sense of the word. I lived with a foster family for a short period of time, but it was be with them during the day or be at school during the day, but I had to be back at the placement by 6 o'clock that evening.
Okay.
And stay the night there, and then they could pick me up the next morning and take me to school or be with them. Sometimes I could stay the weekend, but there were, certain rules and guidelines they had to go by.
Sure.
And they, at one point, were trying to actually adopt me, so they were going through some classes so that they could get the proper paperwork, but then that just didn't work out.
I mean, you're 12 years old. I mean, you have been through all of this abuse. What was that like when you were pulled from your home? Was that a relief, or was that you were confused, or what was going on?
It was a relief, but at the same time, it was very difficult because I had 3 brothers and 3 sisters that still were in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was their father, because we have the same mother, but I had a different dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was nothing that I could do to help them. And they were not experiencing that at the time. There was some harshness, but I was the one, I guess you would say, like the redheaded stepchild, that just doesn't fit, doesn't belong, and is the Cinderella. My mom was part of it. She did not protect me. She did not I don't know if it was because she just didn't have the know-how or what, because once I had my own child, I could look back and I could justify and say, no, I saw when I was in it, I just said, I love my mom no matter what, because I know that she's going through the same thing that I am. But when I had my own child, I realized that I myself would go to any length to protect that child. And I knew that I had justified it.
Sure.
But you don't know it when you're in it.
You sort of sympathize with the abuser or what's going on. And I think I was having a conversation with my own son recently. I said, when you hear stories about a mother or father not protecting their child, I said, I don't understand that, because you become a mom and you just want to go out of your way. You hear of other stories of abuse and you're thinking, how in the world can you do that? Was there substance abuse in the home that you were living in, that you were raised in?
No, it wasn't substance abuse. It was just a lot of anger. A lot of my stepfather would just get angry and just start hitting me with several different things. It didn't matter what it was, be it a cord, be it a belt, be it any object that was there. And it wasn't so much as you get used to it.
Right.
You have the bruises, ice is being put on you afterwards so that it doesn't appear so bad, because, you have to go to school and you have to dress out for PE. And there were several times I couldn't, and I would get in trouble for not, being able to. There were times that they knew about it in school, but whatever reason, they just wouldn't do anything about it. The system is just very broken.
Sure.
And the rules that they have to go by, they weren't getting any help from my mother. And so the lies that were told was, I would ride my bike and I would run into walls, or I would fall down, or there was just several things.
The typical lies, right,
Yes.
that would go
Yes.
on. Kind of going back to what you were saying, you just get used to it. You're in that situation, this is just normal. You're like, this just happens, or I'm a bad person, or...
No, I knew that it wasn't normal. I knew that there was something more, something better. But I couldn't prove it. But inside, I just knew that was not the way life was supposed to be. Many times I would try to hide. I would sleep under my bed, but that didn't work. I would get yanked out, from under the bed and beat. There was just multiple things that happened. It was never safe to go to sleep, because if you did go to sleep, you never knew if you were going to be yanked up by your hair, thrown onto the floor. The potty chairs, if the potty chairs weren't empty, because we had so many, I grew up in poverty. And so we had one restroom, but it was not normal restroom. My stepfather knew how to do lots of things and fix lots of things, but he never fixed anything in the home. Okay. He would go and fix things in other people's homes, but our home was never fixed. So the toilet, you would have to flush it with a water hose. The potty chairs was like coffee cans with the little potty seats on top of it. He would take those and dump them over my head.
Goodness.
There was just, multiple things. So you never knew how you were going to wake up.
Sure. Probably just torment.
Oh, it was.
Constantly.
It was.
I believe that I was just having a conversation right before this about, God's created us from the beginning, right? He created, in his mind, we were whole. And we come here to earth and we get fragmented by trauma, by drama, torment. And we're kind of like stained glass, and God's pulling us back, to pull those pieces back. And each one of those experiences that you had it's just more fragmentation of who you were. And God's, and in his eyes, he's like, she's whole, but yet sin fragments us to a point that it's like, why do we live in the world that we live in? Because it's fragmented. And the world that we're surrounded with, everybody has fragmentations until you come in personal relationship with Jesus. I mean, you were in foster care from, as you say, 12 to 18.
Yes.
And did you encounter any other, I'm sure felt a lot more safe. I say that in quotations, right? But was there other, I mean, you don't have to go into detail, but was there other abuse that happened, through that journey as well?
I'll gladly go into respected detail. Yes, there was. When I got out of my home, the reason that it didn't work out, I'll back up just a little bit with the foster family, was because that was my stepfather's daughter. And she had 2 children as well. And there was a letter that was sent by my stepfather to the placement that I was at. And the letter was written as if you write it to a lover or a wife.
Oh my, okay.
And there was this one, she was a bully to me. I was 12. She was 18 or 19 years old.
Oh, she was young herself.
Yes, but she was older than I was.
Mm-hmm.
She was 18 or 19 and I was 12. Mm-hmm. So I already was a victim, had grown up to learn how to be a victim. And I started crying when I read the letter. Well, she came over and she yanked the letter out of my hands. And I tried to get it back, but then I took off because I didn't know if she was going to beat me or what she was going to do.
Right.
So I went and hid in my room upstairs. Well, she read the letter, and then she came looking for me. And unknown to me at the time, she had gave the letter to the house parents there. So now it's out. Now there's things in that letter that are showing that that's not a parent-to-child letter.
Right.
Well, then they had to, she no longer was a bully to me after that. She came and dug me out from my hiding place and just wrapped her arms around me, told me I'm so sorry, I didn't know, and she just held me in her arms and loved on me and cried with me, and I was lost. I was confused because I was like, okay, when is she going to snap and beat me? When this, when that?
Right.
I lived on the edge all the time.
Sure.
I couldn't trust anyone, and I didn't know what love was. I grew up without love. So what is this strange thing, that I'm feeling with this person showing kindness? That letter, my stepsister was informed about the letter. And then that caused problems.
I see.
Not right away, but eventually. She confronted me and said, how could you possibly tell people this? That is so private. You should have kept that to yourself. And at that point, I knew it happened to her as well. But she would not admit it, and I could not address it with her. Well, that caused problems in the home because her husband she had at the time was, I don't want to say on my side, but he was pushing for me to be part of their family. And she was upset and she didn't want to. So then that caused a fight between them. They ended up calling, she ended up calling the shots on that. And so she decided that the best thing was to remove me from the home. I was bounced to another placement.
Okay.
And then continued the journey into foster care.
Gotcha. So you've got this, how that shape you? Obviously with what you had gone through, then you hit 18 where you just like, okay, you're done. We're done with you. You're out on the street. What happened when you turned 18?
So in the foster care system, you had asked if there was other abuse that took place. Yes, there was.
Okay.
By kids. Okay. By kids that are a couple of years older than you, up to 6 years older than you. Your age, they bully, they do the very same thing. There's so much anger in them, there's hatred, they don't know how to process their emotions.
Sure.
You don't know this at the time because you're in it, but once you get older, you realize and look back on things, right? So yes, there was plenty of abuse that still took place and nothing was done about it. As far as when I was 18 and I got out, it was me deciding to get out. I decided to get out and I wanted to experience a calm life, to find out, if there was more to life than what I had experienced thus far. I was very independent because I realized that the only one I could depend upon was myself. I did not have God in my life at that time. I didn't know him. I actually thought that this is probably going to sound silly, but I thought that he only heard the rich people's prayers because of all, what I saw. They looked like they were the word blessed. Of course, you don't know their heart at that time. You don't know that several people that you think are blessed, they're on the outside, it looks like it, but on the inside, they're a mess, and they don't have everything. And that's why they buy so many things to try to mask what it is that they're going through.
Right.
But God is the only one that can fill those voids.
Amen.
It's not things, it's not material things. So I found out that there was nothing they could do to me after 18, that I could leave if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did, and I got a furnished apartment. I had a scholarship for doing well on my GED. I graduated with my GED from Midland College. I was living in Midland at that time. And the scholarship was not transferable. I did not know this, okay? So I had a job at the college. I was working in the daycare center. And then I also had a second job. I was working at a clothing store. There was one day that my mother called. I spoke to her because I would still speak to her so I could talk to my brothers and sisters. And again, my eyes still weren't open to the fact that it wasn't her fault. And she always told me it wasn't her fault. So I was brainwashed with that.
Were you the oldest?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there was 7 years between me and the next child.
Okay.
And then between them, there was 2 and 1 year.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Really pretty close.
She stayed pregnant, yes.
Oh, my. Okay.
Yes. So I ended up, she asked me, we hear the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
Yes.
And when we don't have the Lord, we don't hear his voice. We don't know, right?
Right.
There were plenty of voices, that you can hear, and it wasn't God's.
Yeah.
And this day was not God's voice, but because of not having God in my life, not knowing better, and just being led by my heart, right? I ended up, she said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Your brothers and sisters miss you so much. You have grown up without them. They've grown up without you. I miss you. I love you. Things have changed here. Your stepfather's no longer the same. He doesn't hit us anymore. Everything is just different. Come home. We want to put you through medical school." I wasn't really interested in medical school, but if it was going to be something, so being led by my heart, I said, okay. So I went knocking on the doors of the people in the complex I lived in, which was a small complex, and I said, "I'm going to be leaving by this time. Leave everything that's supposed to be there," because it was a furnished apartment, and take everything else that I leave behind. So I packed up my old 77 Plymouth Volare.
Oh, my.
Yep, it was an old lady car. That was a solid car, though.
Hey, if it gets you from point A to point B, that's all that matters, right?
Well, I had worked really hard for $3.25 a week. That's if I was good in the children's homes that I lived in.
Wow.
If you're not good, they deduct from your allowance. And what I mean by not being good is because when you have all this stuff inside of you that you haven't dealt with, and there's nothing that can help you to deal with it except for the Lord, but you don't know that. You leave. You go out, you do your own thing, or if you're being mistreated there where you're at, you want to escape and go to safety. And so, they would call it run away, but I would go for a couple hours at a time and then come back, So I ended up going back home, and everything was all right for a couple of weeks. But then my stepfather again started trying to pick up where he left off and make me his wife again.
Oh, my.
But
okay.
This time I was older and stronger than him. When I told my mom about it, she said, "Just let him." So when I was 9 years old, keeping it clean, my mother, she was beat all day long by my stepfather. And then she came out in the evening, had closed the door off to the house so the rest of the kids couldn't hear or see what was going to take place.
Oh, goodness.
But keeping it clean, she showed me how to be a wife to my stepfather. That's when I was 9. Wow. So now here we are 9 years later. I'm 18 years old. Again, look how the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy.
Yes.
He wanted to make sure that he was trying to keep me in that bondage. Okay? So at 18, when I told my mom, he had tried again, and she said, "Oh, just let him, Melissa."
Wow.
She said, "He's happy that you're back. He's actually being nicer to us because you're back."
Wow.
And I knew at that point I had to escape again.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I had to wait. My escape was going to be a doctor's appointment because they were still living in poverty, on food stamps, on all types of different, government assistance.
Sure.
Because neither of them worked outside the home. Yes,
Wow.
with six kids.
Oh, wow, that's tough.
You had to get a card from the hospital for like a type of insurance.
Yeah, okay. I remember that.
I don't know if they still do that now. But
I'm not sure, yeah.
Yeah. So my mother had made an appointment for me to go, but my stepfather was wise and he knew something was up, and so he kept canceling the appointment. So finally, when we were able to go, I had packed a small laundry basket in the back of my car, acting it like it was dirty clothes, and put some of my stuff in there and a few of my clothing items. I gave my mom some money because she was going to have to come back on the bus. And so I just told her, I said, hey, can you hold this money for me? Just in case we get separated at the hospital. That way, you can buy, because she was taking some of my siblings, a couple of my siblings with her. And I said, that way you can buy them snacks or, whatever it is. She knew at that point what I was going to do. That was my escape. So I had to go to a different floor. Thank God for that. She went to whatever floor. I quickly got in the elevator, ran to my car, and escaped.
And you were out of there.
I was out of there, yes. But not having God, that did not, I can't say that was the happy ending right there. Because there was just several other things that happened at that time that wasn't right.
That is a lot. You are in this fight or flight mode constantly. That's all you know, right? So without God, without encountering the Lord, I mean, you run to wherever I can find safety, right? So you went many years without, you accepted the Lord, you said in 2008, is that correct? 2008,
yes.
That's a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
To go, really going through life blindly because you don't have the roadmap of Christ to follow your champion, your defender. He's the one that is leading you. Who introduced you to Christ? You've got this life, and now you're out there without a roadmap, okay? Literally running into walls, one abuse after another abuse after another abuse. Who introduced you to Christ, and where did you first start hearing about the Lord?
So it was in 1990 I met my husband, and there were several things that it wasn't God ordained, but we did the best that we could. And so when you come from a life like I did, and you come into a relationship, you come in broken, but you don't know it. And that doesn't change anything. There is not a person, and it's not fair to put the responsibility on a person to fix you or to be everything that you're lacking.
Because you're trying to make that person your God. You have to, right? You're just trying to, I depend on you to make me happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Depending on the other person as well, if they're broken. Without the Lord, we're all broken.
It's the fragmentation, right?
Yes.
Fragmentation
Yes.
without Jesus being the glue or the one that makes us whole.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So now you have two broken people in a relationship, and they're struggling to make it work the best way that they can, right? 2008, my husband had a cousin that reached out to him, and he said, I don't know where you're at in your life. I don't know what you've been through, what you've gone through. None of that matters to me. I just want to be part of your life.
Ooh, that's cool.
So we started visiting with them, hanging out with them, and he eventually, I think within that first month, invited us to go to the church that he was attending, which was another cousin of my husband's. And he knew the family that was there. His uncle at the time and aunt had that church. And so when we started attending that church, when I first walked in there, I felt like the dirtiest, unclean thing that if people only knew, they wouldn't hug me. If people only knew, they wouldn't smile. They would turn away, because I felt like walking into the church. But again, this is the enemy coming to try to stop the plans of the Lord. And you don't know this at the time, like I said, but you will eventually see it, right? There were several people that were loving and kind and sweet, and the pastors were just, amazing. It seemed like it was too good to be true. It seemed like it was just unreal, right? So eventually, giving my life to Christ, I can't say when the date was. And I know people frown upon me that you don't know the date that it happened. And I don't. I don't. Right. Because I was so covered in so much anger, resentment, guilt, shame, bitterness, unforgiveness. How do you forgive someone that stole your innocence? How do you forgive someone that tore your life up? How do you forgive the one that gave you birth? How do you forgive, all of these different things, right? I thought that I was born into the world to be a rag doll,
Wow.
That was my purpose, because that's what happened. My stepfather sexually abused me, keeping it clean, whenever he felt like it, whether that was daily, whether that was every other day. It was, so that's what you think. That's what you've been conditioned to think as a child. That's all you know. And so, yes, it's always fight or flight, because you never know. When I would hear someone say that they loved me,
What does that mean?
Church people say, I love you. And they do mean it, and they mean it with the love of Christ. But when you don't know that, you grow up without that love, right? When you hear the word love, it's a red flag.
And love is abuse, basically, right?
Yeah.
He grew up with that. That's how I relate to love, is abuse, rejection.
Yes. Abandonment.
Abandonment, all
Yes.
give the list, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I think, though, when you're talking, if someone says, hey, when was the exact date? You're like, I don't know, because honestly, it's a process.
So I would say it is safe to say either 2008 or 2009. I'm leaning more towards 2008, maybe towards the middle to the end of that, because I was very uncomfortable. It was a non-denominational church, and there were people that it was during praise and worship, and so you have people that have their hands raised. You have others that are crying. You have others that are speaking in this weird language, which is weird at the time,
Sure.
right? But it's not weird, especially according to the book of Acts, right? And so at this point, I had my elbows glued to my side because I didn't want my hands to float up by themselves. I know, that's silly, but at the time when you don't know better, you just see all these different things that are happening, which eventually you learn are amazing, because God is just supernatural and he is not human like us, but I didn't know at that time. And so the only extent that I would let my hands be raised, but I kept my elbows glued to my ribs, and I had my eyes closed, my head back, and I ended up hearing this voice that said, you will always be taken care of. You will always have electricity. You will always have water. You will always have food. And I just shook my head and I said, okay, just very calmly. And then I opened my eyes and I looked around. The person that was beside me, that was on their knees crying, was still doing the same thing. The other one that was laid out on the floor, same thing. People, I'm looking around like, didn't you hear that? Didn't you hear that? And nobody is looking at me. Nobody's looking around like they heard the same thing I did. And I just started to ask the question, what was that? But I didn't even get that question out. I said, what was? And then I just started crying, because inside I knew that was God. And I realized at that point, he knows who I am. How does he know who I am?
You have been listening to the radio podcast of Voices of a Woman from Creative Encouragement Ministries. My guest today was Melissa Valenzuela, and she shared her story of childhood abuse, her journey through foster care, and how she was introduced to the Lord. We will pick up with her story in the next episode as she shares how the Lord began to heal her and how she is now bringing healing to others. This radio podcast focuses on giving women a voice to share their stories and how the Lord brought them through challenging situations to live above their circumstances. For more information about Voices of a Woman, Creative Encouragement Ministries, and how to listen to more radio podcasts, visit us on Facebook at Creative Encouragement and on Instagram at Creative Encouragement 247. You can also find us on YouTube and Spotify. Creative Encouragement, encouraging women and connecting lives.